Hi, I'm Tom Stevenson, and welcome to Project Management Tips. I'm a professor of construction management, and in this community, we're working together to try to find better, easier, faster ways of doing things. And today's topic, project management topic, is a tool or technique that you can use to help you better focus. In this day of distraction, we have a lot of trouble trying to get focused. And so the Pomodoro technique is such a technique that'll help you in that area. One of the problems that we have is focusing. You know, in this day and age, we have a lot of distractions like our cell phones, laptops, notifications popping up, social media. But actually, even the long-term research, it actually shows that people have always had a certain amount of difficulty focusing. Kids in school very often have trouble focusing for very long periods of time on a particular topic. And I think it's kind of a part natural that we don't focus for too long on something because, going back to primal times, we had to be on the alert for other things. So we would all of a sudden stop what we were doing and what's that? I think that's part of it. But I also think today we have a lot of software engineers that are working day and night to figure out ways to distract us so that we turn to whatever it is they're selling. So we have to be really on our guard. And I found myself, it's been more and more difficult over the last 10 years as we get all these different interruptions. So what we need to do is try to build some tools and techniques that we can utilize that'll help make us better able to focus. And once we build up that kind of conditioning, that habit, that resilience, and we stop ourselves from procrastinating, we will definitely do very, very well. Because the advantage we'll have is that everybody else is being distracted and they're not really using those tools or techniques, and it's just getting worse for them. So I look at it that this could be a good opportunity for us to get better at focusing in on things that we need to focus on. If you're an estimator, focusing in on that from the construction side. If you're a project manager, and you're developing schedules and other things for your project, being able to really take a good look at it. So the Pomodoro technique, named after a tomato, was developed by Francesco Cirillo in the late 1980s or so. So it's been around for a while. I've known about it for quite a while. And they call it the Pomodoro Technique, or sometimes Pomodoro Timer, in that it was actually like an egg timer that was shaped like a tomato, and it could be turned, and it would allow you to time how long you would focus on something. Because that's the other thing. As I mentioned, we can only focus so long, and there's an optimum time for that. So what is that optimum time? Well, I believe Francesco thought it was around 25 minutes for most people, and that you can actually sit and focus on it, and then you need a break. The break is that you take a 5 to 10 minute break after you focus for 25 minutes. You try not purposely, you're trying not to focus for like 4 hours straight. And I have people that study for tests, and myself included, I'm guilty of it. That where you would study for multiple hours for a test coming up, and you're cramming. We all know that cramming sense, and we don't take a break. We're mentally exhausted, and the truth is your mind starts to wander all over the place anyways, but it starts to wander like very, very frequently, so you actually don't get the same benefits of a really hard focus for a period of time. The other thing I will caution you in this video, I mentioned that 25 minutes is an optimum. Well, it depends where you are on the scale, right? Like if you find yourself very easily distracted, meaning that you're looking at your cell phone 5 times every 10 minutes. Some people, you can't even sit down for 2 seconds and they're looking at their phone. We're kind of habituated towards that. Then you know what? Your focus time might start out being 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But then what I would try to do is build it up over time. 15 minutes for now, 18 minutes, 20 minutes. And some people too, 25 minutes might be too short for them because they've actually built up a strong area that they can focus for longer periods of time. So you can lengthen that time out as well. You know, if it's 35 minutes, 45 minutes, that works better for you, that's fine. But if you find that you're saying 45 minutes and then you're still not doing it, well, then you might as well try to keep it more condensed, because the idea is, it's like Cal Newport would say, deep work. Deep work, you want to be able to focus for a certain period of time. And that means not being distracted and not letting things interrupt you during those time periods. So there's 6 steps to success in using the Pomodoro technique. And there's a lot of people out there that have different things to say on it and have experienced different things. And that's something I always say too with project management tips. Some tips, it depends again where you are. And some tips will work really well, while other tips may not work so well. So you have to sort of adjust it so it fits for you. But definitely these tend to be very well proven and tried techniques. So number 1, you got to define and clarify the task to be worked on. So ideally, it's not just taking up a period of time to focus, but knowing what it is that you're focusing on and putting like a time parameter around it. What are you trying to do in that 25 minutes? What are you trying to do in that 35 minutes if that's the time period? And then you're going to set the Pomodoro timer. And the time depends, as I said, on your level of focus, shorter or longer. But whatever you're picking, you're going to use that over and over and over again. So if it's 25 minutes, it's going to be like cycles that you do over and over and over again. You start it and then you work on the task. And so you focus in it. That means you're not checking your cell phone. That means you're not answering the phone. You're focusing in on that for that period. Every time you get interrupted, even if it's for a second or two, it takes you quite a bit of time to get back into what you were doing. And that is time wasted. So we're trying to be more efficient with our time and have less waste of it. And it may mean that you do get to have more time to do other things that are more leisurely because you're getting so much done in shorter periods of time. That's where the Pomodoro timer can help. So you start, you work on the task, and then you end work when the timer rings, right? So you don't stop till the timer rings. Even if you finish what you wanted to get done in that time period, the research says that you're better to go back and just look at what you were doing and try to really better understand it, look for any flaws in it and correct it, come to a better understanding or better quality of what you just did. So then you take a 5 or 10 minute break. Get up, stretch, move around, distract yourself a little bit on something else, that's fine. So you take a break. And also a lot of the research shows that even when you take a break, subliminally your mind is still working on that problem. So if you had this thing broken up, maybe I'm doing a chapter in a textbook and I wanted in that time period to get 2 pages done or 1 page done. Well, when you're walking away from it, even when you're distracting it, subliminally your mind's still working away on it, right? It's still happening in the background, which is fine. That's a good thing. Number 5, if you have fewer than 3 Pomodoros, go back to step 2 and repeat until you go through all 3 Pomodoros. So, and again, how many you do, you might do 3, you might do 4, you might do 5. You repeat this over and over and over again. So you take a break, go back, do another 25 minutes. Take a break, go back, do another 25 minutes. Now, before you started up here, you try to define what are you trying to accomplish? Like, what's your main objectives for the day? And this is very, very helpful in the planning process, as I'll talk about in the next slide. But definitely you want to have clarity on what you're going to be doing in these Pomodoros. If you're a student and you're studying for an exam and you've got 5 Pomodoros scheduled for this period of time, then what are you going to do? What is it? What kind of breadth are you trying to cover? Maybe in the first one you're covering chapter 1 of the textbook, second one chapter 2. Maybe the third one you're answering questions. This just depends how you've laid it out. But you should have some purpose and you should have some scope of what you're trying to accomplish. It goes back to what we talked about in other videos, having SMART goals. Well, what are you specifically trying to achieve during these periods? Because it's helping you to focus in on what do I need to do so I'm not getting distracted and trying to think about other things. You've got clarity on what you want to do. After the Pomodoros are done, now the 4th Pomodoro, and some would say the 5th, it just depends on your structure and again your resilience that you've built up, how habituated you are in the process. Maybe you only do 4, maybe you do 3, but maybe you do 5, all right? But fourth Pomodoro, then take a long break. So now you're going to take a long break. Maybe you're going to walk around the block, get some fresh air, cross the street to the coffee shop, pick up a coffee. Traditionally 20 to 30 minutes, right? So you take a longer break. And these breaks, you don't want to make them too long, but you should definitely take them. You need a break. You need a mental break. If you're sitting there focusing for a long period of time, the truth is you're probably not, because you don't have that capacity for that long a period of time. So these short breaks give you permission to take that. Meanwhile, when you come back, again, you get used to, when I'm working, I'm focused. When I'm not working, I'm taking a break, I'm relaxing. All right? And repeat once the long break is finished. Then you start again. All right? And maybe you're deciding how many Pomodoros you want to do in a day. Maybe you want to try to get 10 done in a day, whatever that may be. And don't forget 10, if you're doing 25 minutes or say 30 minutes, an easier number, well, that's 5 hours in a day of focused time working. If it's 8, right, it's less, it's 4 hours. So you can figure out what you need to do, because maybe you've got some more open time periods that you don't want to be, right in. You're going to be kind of doing different things. You're going to be interrupted for periods of time. That's fine, but that's not doing the Pomodoro during that period. You save it for where you need to do deep work or focused work. So what I like about it is it helps in the planning process, because it kind of forces you to sort of time block. And time blocking is one of the best ways to manage your time effectively, is where everybody has these to-do lists, but if you don't have them prioritized and you actually don't block out time for them, they never get done. They just move to the next day, or they get dropped off, or they're so important and urgent they actually do get done, but other ones don't. So it helps you to decipher what is important. Then if they aren't that important, maybe you're not going to be so stressed about them because you've recognized that they're not that important. So planning ties to time blocking of time, because you're saying, okay, on the first Pomodoro, I'm doing chapter 1. The second one, I'm doing chapter 2. Or the first 2 Pomodoros, I'm going to focus on the development of this schedule. On the first 2 Pomodoros, I'm going to focus in on completing this estimate, right? And that helps you also with your estimating of time. How long do things take? We totally have this planning fallacy that goes on. Daniel Kahneman talked about it in Thinking Fast and Slow, the renowned book. And we have this planning fallacy where we're way overly optimistic. But you know what? If you're constantly doing this and getting feedback, you start to realize, how long does this take, right? And you either get more efficient at it, or you have a better understanding of how much time this will take, so you don't take on more work in your schedule. Processing makes focus part of a system. So this whole technique helps you to develop your focus, right? It really helps us to build that strength in our mind and in our processes. Visualizing it provides time to think ahead, because when we're in the planning process, we're visualizing ourselves during these blocks and what we're going to do. And that can be very helpful. Development of a schedule. I'm visualizing kind of this project. I've got it in my mind. I've got a little bit of understanding of what I'm going to need to do before I dive into it. All right. And there's these 2 points here. Proponents encourage a low-tech approach. Well, the low-tech approach is that timer, right? You can have an egg timer. If you got one in the kitchen, you can go get it and you can turn it. So proponents that encourage the low-tech, they actually say the ticking sound of those kind of timers when you turn it, and the act of physically turning it, it's triggering your mind. If you build up a habit, it's a trigger that says, now I go into focus mode. For myself, the tick, I like a silent timer. I don't like the tick, 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 tick. I find that distracting a bit, but I could understand how you could get used to it and that might not bother you. But for me, a timer that's either digital, that's quiet, is good. Now, I may suggest that you want to look at a separate digital timer, because we can use our phones, certainly. I have one right here that's called a focus timer that I just downloaded on Apple, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. And it's actually pretty good, because what you can do is you can set it up for how many 25-minute periods you want, or how many 30-minute periods. You can set it up to 30 minutes. I'm usually going with 30 minutes. and then having a 5-minute break in between, stretch break. So you can set it up 30 minutes, 35 minutes, 40 minutes, how many you want to go straight before you take a long break. It's got all of that. It records the history of it, and you can sort of see how you did. You can comment on it. So that's very good. The downside is, well, you've got this, and then of course that means you've got this on, so there might be pop-ups and other things. So you might have to handle how you deal with that on your phone. Shut some of them off, etc., so that they're not distracting you and pulling you out. The advantages of the egg timer is it's separate. So you got to kind of know yourself where you are on that spectrum, whether low tech is better than high tech. I think I personally can do low tech, but I need a separate timer that is quiet for me. But the turning of it, I can get it. So it encourages what we call flow state. This is this act of I'm doing this and I just get into flow. I'm doing deep work. I'm focused on what it is. And when you get really into flow state, things really start to move. And for a period of time, you're just into that groove. I feel like it's very difficult these days to get into flow state. Mihaly wrote the book Flow. He was the lead researcher in this particular area, recently passed away. Fountain of Knowledge. You can check some of his YouTube videos out on flow to better understand that. And myself, I've been on a lean journey the last number of years, and one of the things that's really important to lean construction, doesn't matter if you're in lean manufacturing, lean hospitals, whatever, a big part of lean is focus on process and flow. And so what I like about this is how well it aligns with lean construction. It really aligns well with that thinking. So I think it's a great tool for people that think lean from that perspective, because it is a way of thinking. What you're trying to do is have a continuous flow with very little interruptions. And if you're one of those people that are checking your phone every 5 minutes or every 3 minutes or every minute, right? Some people are checking their phone 300 times a day. Then this is something you need to work on, because you're never getting into flow when you're even just checking your phone and then trying to go back to what you're doing. It's costing you a multiple of that check in time. So I think it's a great tool that way. That's what I wanted to cover today in project management tips. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please leave a comment. If you've tried the Pomodoro timer and it didn't work that well for you, leave a comment, and leave a comment if it did work well. For me, I don't use it every single day or anything like that. But when I find I'm getting overwhelmed with work and I find that I'm letting distractions build up on me, that I have trouble functioning and getting accomplished what I want, it's my go-to tool for that. So I'm Tom Stevenson, wishing you a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Please click subscribe and click the likes and notifications, and we'll build this community together. Bye for now, and have a wonderful day.